Good morning. This is Paul Sanneman with Business Success Tips, where you're going to learn how to make more money in less time and have more fun, especially the more fun part. I have with me today Drew Cameron. I'll get it right. Drew Cameron from Flow Odyssey. Now, I got to start with, what does Flow Odyssey do? That doesn't say a lot in the name. You know, it's like ABC Consulting. So what does Flow Odyssey do, Drew?
No, great question. Thanks for having me, Paul, and welcome to all your listeners. So we were HVAC solutions a few years ago, and that kind of came out of the fact that I grew up in the HVAC trade. Kind of from a kid, age 6 to 8, I was emptying trash cans, and then worked in every aspect of the business all the way through high school and college. Got my degree and got into the business side of the business, and we sold that family business. So HVAC was my background. And I really like the sales part of it, sales and sales management, recruit, hire, train, and coach salespeople. And we did that for many, many years. And then I had a life-changing event health-wise, and I got to a place where doing business and focusing on just the business is not what I wanted to do, and just focusing on the transactional sales side of things was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to grow the people as well as their role, the two sides of the human being, who you are and what you do. And so from that became the journey towards peak performance. Hence today's term is known as flow state. And so I kind of got that from reading Stephen Kotler's book on flow state and learning all about flow state, which is peak performance. And then Odyssey is your personal or spiritual journey to peak performance. And so that allows us to focus on both the individual as well as their role as a salesperson. And if you grow the individual, you can grow the role. And if you can grow the role and the individual together, you grow their success.
So, Drew, what does it mean to be in the flow?
Well, flow state is kind of like, I guess a lot of us who've played sports would think about being in the zone, right? Optimizing performance. Time almost disappears, when you're in flow state, and things, seem effortless, and results, are achieved at a very high level. And getting into flow state is something that, people tend to have, they'll just on a one-off occasion happen to have a good month in sales or something like that. And then they're like, well, how do I get back to that? Right. And because they haven't codified what led to that. And so what we've done is we've tried to work with individuals as well as with companies to figure out how to trigger flow state, because there are things that will take you into flow state, but there are things that will take you out of flow state, full well knowing no human being, can stay in flow state all the time, right?
Okay. So Drew, what gets let's take salesperson. We're talking a contractor, even the owner of the business. Like most of our audience are small contractors between $1 million and 10 million. Yep. And so how do they get in the flow? What puts people in the flow? What puts people out of the flow?
What puts most people into flow is kind of the catch thing nowadays. Everybody's talking about, like, what's your why? What's your reason for doing what you're doing? And it can't be for results and success and money, right? It's why you do, that's how we get what we get, right? But it's usually to make an impact in somebody else's life. And when you can basically focus on others, and helping others, right? The way we get better in life is together. And so when you're making an impact in someone else's life and doing things for other and giving because it's just who you are and what you do, not to get transactional result, what you tend to find out is that comes back 3, 4, 5, 10-fold, right? And making that impact and changing people's lives literally changes our life. And so, trying to maintain that focus is tough, right? Because we all get caught up in our own lives, our own business, our own, head trash.
Right. Well, let's say I'm committed and believe that a lot of these guys and ladies are what I'm going to call survival. I mean, they've got their business. It isn't what they intended. They're always worried about either not the right employee or not the right client. I've been in coaching for 50 years, and there's always the issue of the week, right? Well, if John would only do this thing, it'd be fine. Or if ABC client would agree, would be good. And there's always something out ahead of them that if it was better, their life would be better.
Right.
And so how do you help these people that are, I don't think fear puts you in a flow state. That's my guess.
Yeah. Fear, doubt. Yep. Hesitation. Yep.
So what happens? They're in fear and doubt of where my next job is going to come from, what an employee has, whatever next crisis down the road. How do you help these guys or ladies get into the flow state when their normal state is fear, false expectations appearing real? How do you shift that?
Yeah, well, false expectations appearing real, basically, if we can flip that and basically face everything and rise, right, is teach them that they actually, have that fear is that scarcity and that, contraction mindset. So I want to basically, come from a place of belief and faith and really love. And we're not talking romantic, but love, but it's love of who you are, what you do, why you do it, and the impact that you can have in people's lives, and loving to want to help people. And if you can kind of embrace that mindset, that the opposite of fear is actually love and abundance and expansion, and get into that mindset, that's how we do that. Now, how we do that is both with individuals as well as with company owners as well, and the company itself, is implement vision, mission, purpose, and core values. That is your foundational structure. Those are the cornerstones of building yourself as a human being, but also building a business. And so when you
give me some examples of those, you whipped them really fast there. So give me examples of what those things would actually be for a company.
For a company, so vision is going to be the what, right? What do you want to build? What does this machine look like in 10 years, but dictated or stated in a present tense? So it's like, I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So it's like, I want to be the premier home services contractor in the Philadelphia market, making a difference in changing people's lives from comfort, health, efficiency, and whatever, right? Okay. And so it's stated as that's who I am. It's not to be this. It says we are this, right? Okay. It's the what. Then the mission, if you will, is what is the purpose of doing that, right? And what is the objective of achieving that goal? It's in essence the how do we do that, and it may be something along the lines of recruiting, hiring, and employing and retaining stellar employees who give a world-class customer experience in the home every time. So that might be, that would be the mission. That's the how. The why is, why do I want to do that, right? And so like what's going to cause you to get out of bed every day to do that? And it would be basically to change the expectations and experiences of homeowners who have not enjoyed comfort, health, and happiness in their homes. And so between having the what, the how, and the why, that then says, okay, great, I understand the machine that I need to build. Then I have organizational structure and charts and processes and procedures. But the other side of this says, how do we as individuals communicate with each other on the team? How do we communicate to our customers? And then also, how do we interact within the community? Those become our core values. And so usually 5 to 7 core values kind of drive the organizational principles of a company. And it's not just the words, it's the definition of the word, right? So for example, you might say integrity might be the word, but what does integrity mean to you might be different than what it means to me, might be different than what it means to
like honesty, integrity, though people throw those around. What does that really mean, right?
Yeah. So define what integrity means. That's what when we say it's a core value, it's not just that the integrity is a core value. What about integrity? So we have do what you say, do what you say you're going to do, and be a person of honor, character, and integrity, above and beyond reproach, without hesitation, something like that, right? I mean, you actually define the word integrity,
like sort of the 4 agreements kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Okay. So how do you go about? You're starting with the company. They're in fear of not having not enough of the right employees or the wrong employees. They're afraid of not having enough of they're not in abundance. They haven't got the right kind of clients. They haven't got the right kind of employees, and they're just in survival. Okay. So you're going to intervene here. You're going to make the difference. So what do you do to make that difference?
Well, it's looking at all those things first. A lot of times people call me and say, "Hey, Drew, I need you to help me grow my business. I need to, increase sales, increase profits, whatever." Right? And I'm like, "Okay, well, what's going on?" And so we'll look at financials, and I'll start to just ask a lot of questions. And I always go back and I say, "Okay, are you in business by design or by default?" Most people are in business by default. Meaning they never basically built out the business plan, right? They worked for somebody else. They had the entrepreneurial seizure. They jumped into business. And they started selling to friends, families, people, that they knew, and whatnot. And next thing you know is they actually have a business. And now, like you said, I'm in fear. I got to do something to keep this machine going. And so I say, okay, what's the vision, the mission, the purpose, the core values? What does the organizational structure and chart look like? what are the roles and responsibilities and people and processes, and then show me the financial structure. And once I have those pillars, I can then say, okay, now we can build pricing, and then we can from there go to marketing, sales, and operations. And so in that exact order, starting with leadership, right, the head of the person at the top, because the fish stinks from the head down, I'm like, what do we need to do, right? Because if you think the answer is, I need more leads and I need more sales, odds are, as you well know, Paul, it's probably you just need to do a better job with the leads and the opportunities that you got. And then it's like, okay, well, I need to train my salespeople. Well, what makes you think you have the right people, right? And so it's through that process of vision, mission, purpose, and core values. Those are hiring and dehiring decisions, right? I may have a salesperson on the team, and I have one in California right now at a client, and he's been with the guy for 8 years since the guy started the business, and this guy says, I'm willing to do anything to help the owner achieve success. And I said, well, I appreciate that's laudable. That's laudable on your part, but you know what? You suck at sales. You're not doing well at sales. It doesn't matter that you're willing to do it. You just can't. And you're really half-assing it. And so I had to say to the owner, I said, it doesn't matter that your friend here who's been with you and is loyal to you, and I know you want to keep him, is doing this and can run the calls. He's just burning the opportunities every chance he gets. We made that one change in the business, and we implemented tracking, in there. And next thing you know is we're tripling sales.
Wow.
Right? So it's usually kind of, decoding what they think the issue is and what the real issue is.
Okay. So, what do you think, if you're going to yourself, what do you think is the biggest issue for the companies you work with? I mean, you work with a lot of companies. So when you come in, there's got to be like, well, it's usually X. What would the X be in most companies you work with? Excuse me.
It's usually, like I say, lack of that plan. They're in business by default. There is no plan. There is no vision, mission, purpose, core values, organizational structures, processes, and procedures. Literally, most contractors, don't even have a budget for their business. Meaning, it's not like a budget of what you're spending as much as it is, okay, here we are at the end of 2023. Do you have a plan for 2024? If you want to go from, let's say 5 to 10 million, you don't just say, I want to go from 5 to 10 million. Okay, build me department by department, let's say for a heating and air conditioning business, which is near and dear to my heart, service, maintenance, replacement, indoor air quality. What's the volume going to be in each department? What's the cost of goods going to be in each department? What's the overhead allocation going to be in each department? What's the marketing budget going to be in each department? What's the marketing plan to drive opportunities in each department? It's literally a lack of a plan. Random activities get you random results. Having a plan doesn't guarantee your results, but it's a higher probability. So having that plan is typically the issue.
Well, it sounds a bit complicated. I mean, I work with a lot of contractors, and usually writing business plans, they write one and stick it in the drawer and go, I tried that once. I needed a loan from the bank or whatever they needed to plan for. It's not a living document, because that's not the way a lot of these people operate. So how long does that take? And how do you get it done? And how do you make it a living document, not just something that's shoved in the drawer?
Through education. I mean, you're right. It's not a living document. I love that phrase. You're not think about it this way. You're not building an organization. You're building an organism. It's a living, breathing entity of people, right? Sentient beings that are operating and interacting with each other. They're also communicating to the marketplace, as well. And so, I'm part of a group where we help teach that, and in 3 days we can have you have a budget. We can teach you what you need to know pretty much inside of, I would say inside of 30 days. We can give you what you need to build this, have this plan, build this plan out, and execute this plan. And so with most of the clients that I've had over, I've been doing this since 1999. I know you've been doing it a lot longer than I have. But I tell people, you didn't get into this overnight, right? You're not going to get out of it overnight, but it's going to take a little time to undo some things and then put some things into place. But it's probably going to take you 6 to 12 months. And so usually within 6 to 12 months, we can usually have the business plan in place within 90 days, budget and financial structure and pricing structure, as well as the vision, mission, purpose, core values, all of that. We can usually have that in place within 90 days if they do the work. But then within that 6 months to a year, you'll start to see that you kind of break into a stride, you get into a run, you accelerate, you got that momentum going. And by the end of the 12 months, you fast forward 12 months, and now you're seeing the results, and they're replicatable. They're basically systematic, and they're consistent. That doesn't mean you won't have some ebbs and flows and ups and downs and maybe a setback here and there, but consistent efforts are going to get you consistent results.
Well, one pace business plans sound very structured, like A, B, C. And then the flow sounds pretty, I know, airy fairy, but like esoteric, kind of like I'm just in the flow, man, right?
Yeah.
So how do you reconcile those two issues? One is have the plan, write it down. It sounds very like, right brain kind of thing, or I guess left brain in that case. And then the other one, which is feel good about your job, help humanity, make a difference in the world, love one another. That looks like sort of opposite sides of the deal here. So how do you put those together?
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it this way. I mean, in business, we tend to refer to athletics quite a bit, and it doesn't matter what the sport is, right? But it's, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, they make the game look effortless, and they're wicked creative, but it's only because they've been in the gym. Oh, Steph Curry, another one, right? They're in the gym over and over every day, practicing, executing the plan, seeing it in film. Yeah, it looks easy, when they go and execute it on the court and taking that game-winning shot to win the championship, but how much work was put in behind the scenes. So yeah, rarely do we get into flow state and stay in it consistently without any effort. The key is the effort. You've got to put in the effort, right? I mean, I think we all know, that we got to do the push-ups. We got to get into the gym. We got to do the push-ups every day. And to ourselves, we won't see that. We won't see a change in our bodies in the mirror, day to day. But I guarantee you, if you did 50 push-ups a day, and 5 sets of 10 or 10 sets of 5 every day for 3 or 4 weeks, I guarantee somebody in your family would notice, as long as you were stepping away from the chocolate cake,
Right.
Because that's the thing. You're going to see this incremental change, and to us it's incremental, but to others it's going to be exponential. And 1 + 1 + 1 in the changes in the various areas of your life don't make a 1 + 1 + 1 result. They actually make an exponential impact. And so yeah, I get it. They sound like they're somewhat conflicting. But they're not. It's the things that you know to do, the things that you've mastered and do consistently are what puts you into flow state. The thing is, sometimes you're in flow state, you don't even realize you're in flow state because you just say, well, no, that's just what I do. And somebody looks at you and say, well, you usually make it so effortless. You make it look so easy. Like what it is that you do with recruiting, right? Mm-hmm. Average contractor says, I struggle. It's the biggest thing I struggle with. And you're like, oh, that's easy. Well, yeah, because you know what to do. You've studied it. You've perfected it to some extent. You have a level of excellence. It's a level of mastery. And so with mastery comes the ability to more consistently trigger flow state.
Okay. So one of the issues I've had as a coach for many, many years, or, business coach or consultant, is it isn't knowing what to do. It's getting them to do stuff. Like the reason people don't time management's no time, right? So I'm sure you meet with people, they pay you money to get something to happen. And then all of a sudden you tell them what to do, but they just don't make it happen.
Yeah.
How do you get them to actually, the gym membership versus, doing the pull-ups? Like it's a big thing.
Well, I mean, can anybody make anybody do anything? No, right? So it's internal motivation, right? People like to talk about motivational speakers. There's no such things. There's inspirational and aspirational speakers, but motivation by definition comes from within. So my motivation, to do something is going to be different than yours, even though the thing to do might be the exact same thing, right? So I got to find out what motivates the individual, right? The leader of the company, the salesperson, the technician, the bookkeeper, personally, what's driving them to have a job? I mean, is it they want to live in a certain zip code, a certain type of house, put their kids to a certain school, take a vacation, find out what's in it for them personally, and show them how they can achieve getting what they desire for themselves through the efforts of the business, or as a salesperson, and do that, and then say, okay, is it important enough to get the result? Like, who will suffer if you don't do this besides yourself? Will somebody else suffer? Is that acceptable? And if not, okay, then your why is big enough. And so if I can get your why to be big enough, you'll do what is necessary. For example, for me, the fact that I do push-ups every day is because I had a heart attack and sudden cardiac arrest 4 years ago. I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to put my family through that again. So my why is here. Prior to that, it was like, I'm working and I'm executing. Oh, if I get to the gym, I get to the gym. Okay. It wasn't as high as my why today. So you need a high why, number one. And then number two is schedule your life, then schedule your business, right? So all of us, if we had a 2 o'clock doctor's appointment, would make our 2 o'clock doctor's appointment because it's on the calendar. But see, if you don't go to the gym, do the push-ups, right? Drink the water, eat healthy today, build the business plan today, work on the price book, put 2 hours in on marketing, put 1 hour in on, happy calls, right? And literally schedule that activity. It might get done. There's just a lower probability of it getting done. So when you schedule things, they tend to get done. So it's tapping into the why and then scheduling the activities that are related to the why to get those results. And then for me, I do the accountability follow-up as a coach.
Right. Because I know I used to think it was, 50% why and 50% how to. And now after doing this many, many years, I'm to 99% why and 1% how to. Because I use the example, if somebody puts a gun to your head and you can do it, you have a motivational problem.
That's right.
Put a gun to your head and you can do it, you have a training problem.
That's right.
And in most cases, they're motivational problems. If their life depended on it, they could pull it off, but they just don't have enough reasons to get it done, right? So I guess you help supply those reasons, and then you take the why, once you understand what that is, and put it into a schedule. Say, okay, if you want to get in shape, do this. You want to sell something, do this. You convert the why into actually how-tos, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, exactly, right? I mean, people get caught up in the tyranny of how, and oh, that'll never work, or that'll never work in this, in this area. I've tried that, and it's like, okay, so. Yeah, finding the why is more important. If you're, like you said, if your why is big enough, you'll figure out the how, and don't not get caught up in the tyranny of how. We've all been there. We've all done it. We've all had to do it. Probably something for our significant other or our children that we've probably had to do this for. Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, figure out how to get. It's called how do you get leverage on a client in our case, right? Or how do you get leverage on yourself, right? So you don't get to have if you like going out on the weekends, for example, you don't get to go out on the weekends if you didn't make the 100 calls this week and run the 10 visits and do the necessary things. You don't get to do that. If you like to buy shoes, you don't get to buy the shoes, right? Or something like that. And so if you can create a reward system and a learning system, I don't like to call it a penalty system, but a learning system where you basically say, okay, if I didn't do this, then I get to watch 2 hours of sales success content.
Like consequences to behavior, right?
Consequences, but consequences that would reinforce. It's not a penalty per se. I get to watch 2 hours of sales videos to get better because I didn't do the work this week. And so if you don't like watching sales videos, then do the work and be successful in the results. And maybe actually do both, right? And that's what I get people to kind of look at is, why do we have to basically have negative consequences? Why can't they be inspirational and aspirational consequences?
Okay. Well, this has been very informative. I'm going to have to go do some more push-ups. So now, if people want to get a hold of you, Drew, how do they reach you, and what's the best way? If they decide, okay, I want to be in the flow, whatever they're saying makes sense to them, and it sort of strikes them intuitively, or it is something they should do, or at least call you, get a hold of you. How do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, easy as a phone call. I like to talk to people. I always like to schedule Zoom, and I always schedule my calls too, so we can make sure that we have time. So you can email me at drew@FlowOdyssey.us, or you can call me 610-745-7020, and you can text me right there. Just let me know who you are and that you want to schedule a call. We'll schedule a phone call, or we'll schedule a Zoom call. That way it happens because it's important to both of us that way. And happy to help however I can. And that's what we do. Right. I mean, it can certainly go to our website.
Do you just work with HVAC companies? Do you just work with HVAC company? Do you just work with HVAC, or are you willing to work with other contractors?
All home services contractors. So windows, roofing, siding, gutters, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, generators, home security. Yeah, if it takes a salesperson or a technician to go into a home and work with a homeowner, that's who we tend to focus with. I tend to stay away from business to business. and new construction. I can work with those, but I'll only work with those if I'm working with the business on the residential side.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks, Drew. I appreciate your time.
Likewise.
All I can say is I've done this 50 years. He's absolutely right. You should do what he says. It'll work. And now you have somebody to talk to you about it. So I give him a call if I were you.
Sounds
Thanks.
good.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you being here, Drew.